way, way, way too simple. And so Paul, a huge thing he's doing in 2 Corinthians is he's responding to this community of people who fall in love. And listen, we have to see this. We are a community and we live in a world and we are in love with super apostles. What makes church so difficult in our age and in our day is ultimately somebody's more talented than the other. Ultimately, there are programs and services that are better than others. And what happens is unknowingly and unwillingly, we find ourselves in a commerce of church of where we've taken the gospel and the community of Jesus and we've turned it into something of products and services and who has the best ones to offer. When at the end of the day, the community of Jesus is not about how talented we are, not that I think talent is a bad thing, not about how excellent we are, not that we don't want to be excellent at everything we do, but that we actually believe the message of Jesus is a drawing together of a group of humans that want to be family with one another. And ultimately, when you want to prioritize family, you cannot prioritize production. This is what I'm learning about trying to pastor a new kind of church. There are times where inside of me I think, oh my gosh, we got to do things better than that. But I know, and I say that most of myself, but I know this. I cannot pursue somebody as family and pursue somebody as spiritual producer at the same time. Yeah. It's not actually possible. Those two things live in antithesis. There is an exchange that has to take place. And if we want to be a community of authenticity, if we want to be a community of spiritual family, if we want to be a community where we get to come honestly before ourselves, we have to exchange it for something. And what we have to exchange it for is the reality that we don't get to be super apostles. We don't get to be. So Paul here, in this context, in our context, in a group of people saying, Paul, I want you to be more talented. Paul, the church should look like this. Paul, the gospel should mean this. Paul, this is what life should be like. He comes back and he reminds them and he says, let me tell you what Jesus is actually all about. And he begins to unpack. You know what he starts with? He starts with a simple idea. We are those who believe that Jesus is enough. We are those who believe that Jesus is enough. What does it mean to be a Christian? To be a Christian isn't a statement that we know everything. To be a Christian isn't a statement that we can articulate to the streets of the world. To be a Christian isn't to admit that everything is black and white and there isn't gray that we don't understand. To be a Christian at its very nature is to simply say, I believe Jesus is enough. Yes, you want other things. Yes, other things are compelling. Even the way Paul says it, listen, we're not going to go about disgraceful and compelling ways. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do manipulation. We're not going to do control. We're not going to do this. All we're going to say is that we are those who belong to Jesus. And either it's enough or it's not. And I feel this in truth with this, friends. All of us feel this in different ways, right? All of us feel this in different ways. This temptation inside of us, the lingering question, is Jesus actually enough for us? Is Jesus actually enough for us? And when we most sense it, right, is when things aren't going the way we want them. When life is abounding, when joy is alive, when blessing is a reality, none of us are sitting there going, oh, I guess I got to answer the question whether Jesus is enough, right? It's when our marriage is hurting. It's when we don't feel understood. It's when we're seeing things in our kids we don't know what to do with. It's when relationships aren't what we want. It's when our finances aren't what we wish they were. It's when situations we deeply want to control aren't happening the way they want them to happen. So even this week, as I was getting ready for this teaching, I was confronted by this myself. There's this thing inside me when you're playing teacher. So this is specific to me, but the truth is specific to all of us, right? There are times inside of me, I say this week, I was spending time in prayer, and I caught myself saying, God, I need you to bring families to our church, families that are going to get it, families that are going to serve, catch the vision. Family, I go, God, I need you to do this. This became this language of my prayer. God, I need you to do this. And then I heard the simple response of the Holy Spirit back to me. Fill my mouth. Do you really need? Or am I enough? And then there's this place where you just feel like, God, I want to control this. I don't like living and not being able to control this. And he says back, am I enough? You have to see that when the mark of a Christian is this, that we are those who say Jesus is enough, what we're actually relinquishing is control to how things are going to turn out. To actually make the statement that Jesus is enough for me is to actually make the statement, I am who I am, even if nothing works the way that I want it to work out for me. I cannot control the way my circumstances are going to pan out, but what I can control is this. Jesus and I are in this together. Whether this is a success or a failure, whether this goes the way I want it to or not, the truth is, the begging question is not, am I going to find value because I'm successful? Am I going to find value because Jesus is enough? Yeah. This is what it means to be a Christian. We are not those who claim our success because of our outcomes. We are those who claim our success because we are enough because Jesus is enough. It all starts here. And all of us, and our passions, and our dreams, and our desires, and our relationships, and the things that really matter to us, all of us are longing for senses of control because we want the outcome. But it's the whisper of Jesus who comes back and says, you want to know what it means to be a Christian? It is not those who control their destiny. It's those that no matter where the future goes, clings to the fact that Jesus is enough. Jesus is enough. Paul brings this up. Yeah, we're not as good. I'm not as talented. Our gospel isn't as fun. But we cling to the one. Jesus. That's what we preach. We don't preach ourselves. We preach Jesus. We just preach servants. He's trying to help us see that. And then he says this, right? You have to get who we really are. We aren't the power players of the world. We are the servants. Jesus said this, right? The Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve. He came to lay down his life as a ransom for many. Friends, this is the simplest idea. If our King, if the God-man Jesus is truly the King of the world, which I deeply believe with every fiber that he is, then he is a king who is recruiting a kingdom of servants. There's no other way. What does it mean to be a Christian in our world? It means that you and I have now come into the kingdom of servants. We are those who are the recruited ark of the world to come and believe that God is on mission, that the renewal of the world is happening through the God-man Jesus who came and laid down his life not for his own sake, but for ours. And then when we become like him, we begin to learn how to do that on the sake of others. All of us are still looking for that day and that place where the gospel of Jesus suddenly promotes us out of servanthood, and it's never going to happen. And why? Why is the church, why are we living in the collapse of Western Christianity? Why has the church become so uncompelling? Because we've lost our nature. Yeah. Somehow we've taken the message of Jesus and we've turned it into something that says, come and be powerful. Come and be wealthy. Come and have all your problems fixed. The problem is there is no substance in that message because it is not the message.
Come on. Yeah. Come on.
This is the mystery of Jesus, is that actually when you and I say, God, I'm willing to become like he was a servant, suddenly the substance of the kingdom of God is with us. See, it's the mystery of God. It's the dichotomy of how he works. It's in emptying that we find fulfillment. It's in loss that we find life. It's in servanthood that we actually find our calling. I have a quote of a book I've been reading with a friend, and it's just an incredible book. And here's a quote of it. It's called Beauty Will Save the World. And I want you to listen to this quote. In the second beatitude, Jesus is making an important announcement to those who, instead of finding a means of avoiding shared sorrow have allowed themselves to be sculpted by pain and sorrow. Jesus seems to be saying that it is those who have given up on being comfortably numb through shallow contentment and have instead engaged in the real work of grief, for there is much in the world to grieve over. Those are the ones who will encounter the deep comfort of the King. Jesus is to be happy. Kind of the cry of our heart. What is the cry of our heart? I just want to be with Jesus. How many think about why do I even live? Why do you even live? Because God of love wanted to be with you. And He wanted to give you community. At the end of the day, all of the problems that we face, we are alike for two reasons. To be in relationship with God and to be in relationship with one another. It's why we exist. It's the creative heartbeat of God. And then we have all of the sin, death, decay, and confusion that we now live on a mission towards. But the truth is, at the end of the day, Jesus wants to be with us. And we want to be with Him. But what He's saying is that where you find Him is in the selfless act of giving yourself away. Our King is the King of servants. You cannot belong to Him and not be a servant. It doesn't work. And what does He say? Paul says, but where does it say? For what we proclaim is not ourselves, but Jesus, and with ourselves as your servants. For God said, let the light shine out of the darkness. What shone in our hearts is the light of the glory of God on the face of Jesus. Paul is actually saying, when I take the position of a servant, it's when you truly see who Jesus is. There's no other way to show it. So we are those who declare that Jesus is enough. We are the recruited servants of the world. And we are those who give so that others can receive. We are those who give that others can receive. You know, this picture, this beautiful picture of identity, where Paul says we are treasures in jars of clay. The picture of this term, jars of clay, isn't actually to denote valuelessness. It's not to denote worthlessness. It's not to make a commentary on God's overwhelming worth and your underwhelming worth. The actual point of this picture of these jars of clay was to simply highlight their weakness. Paul is saying that the mystery of what it means to be a Christian is that we are those who literally have heaven contained within us, but heaven is contained in these fragile creations. But this is part of God's plan. Because we are those who break the world. Our fragility is actually part of God's plan as well. It's the fact that when we break open, heaven spills out that God destined for us. It's who we are. It's who we are. We are treasures in jars of clay. We are unending, eternal value in fragile containers. It's our picture. And then Paul says this, right? This incredible passage. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed. We are perplexed, but not driven to despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Struck down, but not destroyed. Always carrying the bodies so that we can pour out His life. I think one of the greatest things that we have to come to terms with Jesus about is that in many ways, our relationship with Him still consists of how many things we want Him to do for us. And let me just even say, I think there's some fairness in that. There's some fairness that in our relationship with God, we contend for things that matter to us in our hearts. I think about my relationship with my wife. As deep of this covenant love, and as much as I want to be a servant to her and she wants to be a servant for me, there's things that I long for from her that are very healthy, things that I ask for from her, long for, need from her. This part of our relationship is an ability to say, I want this, I need this, will you come and meet this, right? Not in unhealth, when it gets unhealthy, it gets perverted, but in health. And I think there is a place to say in relationship with God, a beautiful part of our relationship with God is, God, I need you, I'm asking for this, would you come and meet these needs, would you come and hear me and see me and value me, right? The problem is that for the vast majority of us, that is the total extent of our relationship with God. And what we have to see is that the invitation of Jesus is that we are actually those who give so that others can receive. We are those who break ourselves open so that others can find. The mystery of the world is that God did not rescue us through military might. He rescued us through suffering love. So his plan and his destiny in the world is suffering love. God is renewing the world. God is at work in the world. God is desperately moving and advancing for the ones he loves, for the sake of the gospel. He is at work in the world. There are so many things about we are an orthodox community of Christ followers contending for the gospel and the renewal of our world. The question that is at hand is, how does that actually happen? It happens through suffering. The measure of the mark of how we will affect and change people is not through our cultural fluency. It's not through our intellectualism. It's not through our ability to articulate the gospel in the middle of secular agnosticism. It's not in this day and age where everything of baggage is coming alive against Christianity, and any conversation I want to have with Jesus has to include several other things. It is simply this: will I, with no willingness or understanding of the outcomes and all loss of control, choose to be a servant picture of the suffering love of God for other people? Because it is the mystery of God that says, when I enter into that place, the renewal of the world is possible, empowered by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's who he is. We are those who give so that others can receive. So, what does Paul say? We don't lose hope. We don't lose hope. The entire context of Paul's message are not things that we would willingly choose. None of us are raising our hands to be servants. None of us are raising our hands to suffer. None of us are raising our hands to be unliked and disassociated. None of us are willingly saying, oh, I want all of these things, let me include them. But what he's saying is that this is actually a picture of Jesus in the world. The beauty and the mystery of Christianity is that Christ died and he rose again. Death and resurrection is not just the plan of God for salvation, it's the plan of God for all things. And his people are now invited into a new way of life where we become the visible representation of the death and the resurrection of Jesus. You cannot have resurrection without death. You cannot have beauty without suffering. You cannot have this calling of Jesus on our lives without our willingness to be those who say, Jesus, I will suffer with you before you. And then in that suffering, we get to say that we are those who do not lose hope. And ultimately, what I love in this picture is that what we see is the communion table, is the Eucharist. We actually see that the identity, what does it mean to be a Christian in our world? We are the communion table, where we find our life in the death and the resurrection of Jesus. That Jesus broke his body on our behalf and spilled his blood for us. And this is where we, as those who follow Jesus, find our life. We're rescued, are redeemed, come from spiritual death, spiritual life. The gospel has rescued and saved us because Jesus the King is real. That this place of the death and resurrection, communion table, where we come to remind ourselves of our truest identity, what God is speaking back to us is, now I want you to turn around and be the communion table of the world. That it is actually people's ability through your brokenness, through your body, through your blood being spilt out, that heaven in this jar of clay now gets unleashed into the world and the redemption plan of God takes place. You want to know what it means to be a Christian? We are those who willingly suffer for the world because the gospel is worth it. Yeah. And so yes, we are now the living incarnate communion table of God for our neighbors who don't know, for our neighbors who don't believe, for people that are suffering, for people that are in grief, for people that are walking through hell. What they need is the death and resurrection of Jesus. And our identity now becomes those who walk into our neighborhood and say, I know that you may not know who he is yet, but my life is going to be your communion table until you do. Yeah. It's in my life that I'm willing to live and love you in desperate ways, to break open the death and resurrection of Jesus in me, even though I'm so unable. So that then you can encounter the treasure that's in me. Guys, the point of the fragility is this: you're meant to be broken.
Yeah.
It's how the treasure spills out. It's how heaven gets unleashed. It's how the gospel gets shown. Paul says this whole beginning, he starts this entire passage with this, that there is a veil over the world that they can't see the true light. How is the world going to discover the light of Jesus? Not when we become strong enough. Not when we become powerful enough. Not when the square is 40 churches around Atlanta and we're seeing our dreams come alive. Our hope is not in our outcome. Our hope is in relinquishing our control and saying, right here, right now, putting flesh to the death and the resurrection of Jesus for the sake of my neighbor. That's what matters. That's what matters. As Christians, we are the living Eucharist, where the body is broken and the blood is spilled, but heaven is released. And if you want to come up, friends, Jonah. But this is hard. This is probably like the least encouraging message I've preached in about a year. It's a lot more fun to be the light of the world. It's a lot more fun to be chosen. It's a lot more fun to be adopted. But this is the best point is it's all true, right? This is like a stadium. This is a part of a pie of our identity. But we can't miss this slice. We can't miss this piece. Because in many ways, it's our truest self. It's our truest self. I want to pastor an incredible church. But more than I want to pastor an incredible church, I'm asking one question. Is a spiritual awakening possible in my generation? Is it possible? Is it possible for a Jesus movement in our nation? Is it possible for what happened to the revivals of old in our day? We live in a secular age where humanity has moved past their need for God. But we become those who hold up a sign saying that God has not left. Desperately need. How may it be possible for a spiritual awakening in our generation? I think it is those who say, I am a Christian, will also begin to say what it means to be a Christian. As I sat on this table with my friend, is that Jesus so loved the world that he died. That he laid down his life. All I want to do is show my neighbors that that's real. Because they see it in me. What does it mean to be a Christian? Death and resurrection. What does it mean to be a Christian? That Jesus is enough. I don't have to look for anything else. And now because I've found peace, that my outcomes may not be my outcomes. What I want to control may not happen. But Jesus is enough. So in any way and in every way, I am capable. I want you to see the broken body of Christ, the spilled blood of my King, and the resurrection power and hope that finds me. This is what it means to be a Christian. And you know where Paul ends? So great. So we do not lose heart. We don't lose heart because suffering is our story. That's what he's trying to say. Friends, suffering is our story. We don't lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is getting day by day, day by day. The For this momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight as we look to things that are seen, not just the things that are seen, but the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are seen are eternal. You know what I love about what he's saying there? Your suffering, it's not lost. You know when you go through moments in life, you wish they were different, and you're in pain because you can't control it. And maybe, just maybe, you have this moment when you let Jesus be enough. What he's saying is that moment of suffering, it's not worthless. It doesn't just come and go and mark you, and there's actually a weight to it. There's an eternal nature to it. And a day is going to come when you see Jesus face to face, and there will be a substance to who you are because you took part in the suffering rescue of the world through Jesus. Your suffering is not in a vacuum. Your suffering does not lack meaning. Your suffering is actually the redemption of the world in Jesus. So that's why we don't lose heart. We do not lose heart because whatever we suffer in this life has gravity in the life to come. Has gravity. I want to help my family. I want to give my life for my wife. I want to be protected and safe. These are all good desires. I do not mock them. I want them. I just know I want one thing more. It's Jesus. And it's when his life becomes in my life that the hope of the world becomes possible. We are going to end today and specifically this teaching series in communion. And our ushers want to come up and pass us out. And what I would like for you to do is just receive them and hold on to them. And together as a church, we're going to take them together. Friends, if you just want to sing over this for a second while we receive this, we're going to take the Eucharist and then we're going to close our time together. But as they're being passed out, hold on to them. But don't just hold on to them. Begin to let them speak to you. Begin to let him invite you into his plan in the world. And to remind you that you're not enough. And that's actually part of the point. Is you're not enough, but he is. He is. Father, we come before you. We want to receive you this morning. Be with us, Jesus. In your name. Let's get us sing over this.
And I don't need these answers when my life is found in Jesus. All that's broken is made clean. The cross composed redemption song, and you sing it all of me. The life you give to fracture pieces, of melody. The cross composed redemption song, and you sing it all for me. And the life you give to fracture pieces of melody. As if my life
practice what we call an open table, which is just this that you are invited to come to the table of Jesus, which we believe is the love feast of God. For any and all who call upon Jesus. We also believe that while communion is symbolic, we believe it's more than symbolic. Because of a very simple belief. Jesus just is supernatural. So everything he's in, everything he does, is also supernatural. So you come before bread by the Publix, grape juice, also by the Publix. But isn't that the beauty? It's a jar of clay. It's weak and ordinary. But it's more than that. It's the love gift of God to us. And whenever we believe that Jesus is present and we believe that he is present in communion, we also believe he's supernatural. So you get to come and you get to actually receive from the King of Kings. You get to come and encounter the love of God. And I think it's a good day to not just remind ourselves that this is where we find our life. It's now that after this is the place that we find our life. This now becomes the calling of our life. We are the Eucharist table of the world because Jesus is the redemption of the world. On the night before his death, he took some bread and he broke it. He said, "This is my body broken for you. Take me." He held a glass of wine. He said, "This is my blood shed for you. Forgiveness of sins. The blood of the new covenant. Take and drink." So pray with me, God. We thank you to be here. We receive your table. We receive the love of God found in Jesus. And we ask you, God, to make us people of your identity. God, that we would see the beauty of your love for us, that we are loved. God, that we would understand the nature of identity, that we've been chosen. God, that we would hold true to the fact that we are adopted sons and daughters. God, that you have now pronounced us as people. We are the light of the world. We are ambassadors of God. We are the reconciliation movement. God, that you speak over us this purpose and this identity. We are citizens of heaven. We have an eternal home that beckons us forward. God, we are Christians. Would that truth mark us, not with arrogance, but with humility? Would that truth mark us, not with baggage, but with truth? But would we have the grace in our day and our age, in the midst of all of the questions that come with Jesus, to put on display the servant king who came and died for us. We love you, Jesus. In your name. Amen. Amen. Prayer teams want to come forward. Let me bless you. And as always, we just have prayer available. We believe that God moves. Bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you. And everywhere you go this week, just be blessed and loved. Be community. Be family. Be God's people in the world. We love you guys. God bless you. We'll see you next week.
Our minds get in the way of our hearts. I'm learning those things. So just to let all of my thoughts so your honesty teaches me a lot. That's authentic. That's yeah. That's exactly what he was saying. That's so when I find myself whether it's just sorrow and sadness and things that I just feel rebellion, brokenness in my life, against it's no, it's a lot, and so I appreciate that's those are two types of we all experience every day. Yeah, so yeah, really. I live in LA. So I'm going to road off myself out here was whatever happens, like you're always welcome. And to be honest with you, that's real everything was in place. It's just something that I like. I feel like it's just part of my calling. Just what I do.